Welcome to Untold Billionaires. By candlelight, a king signs alone. Papers are sealed with wax. A shadowy figure watches silently from the corner, unseen, unknown, yet holding the fate of nations in his grasp. This is the world the Rothschilds were born into, a Europe ruled by monarchs, empires, and war, and a place where only the clever, the patient, and the bold could rise above obscurity. In 1744, in the crowded alleys of Frankfurt's Jewish ghetto, a boy named Meyer Rothschild is learning lessons far beyond his years. He has no land, no title, no army, only coins, ledgers, and a mind hungry for understanding the flow of wealth. While Europe's nobles focus on birthright, Meyer studies trust, timing, and human nature, the invisible currency that would define his family's legacy. Meyer's father, Moses Rothschild, is a money changer. Young Meyer watches him carefully, noting who pays promptly, who deceives, who fears the consequences of default. He learns the first rule of power: information is gold. By adolescence, Meyer is already trading rare coins and small loans to local merchants. But one moment changes everything. A German prince notices his meticulous accounting and rare integrity. Meyer gains access to royal contracts, a world most Jews of his time could never enter. This is the first spark of empire, a seed planted in shadows, waiting to grow. But Meyer does not dream small. He envisions more than wealth for himself. He sees a network of influence spanning nations, a family that could turn knowledge into power, and trust into unstoppable leverage. He begins building his household not just as a home, but as a training ground. Each son will learn strategy, each daughter diplomacy, every apprentice the art of discretion. Meyer's mantra is simple but profound: never reveal all. Let the world chase what it cannot see. And yet, even as the boy begins his work, Europe is changing rapidly. Wars loom, empires expand and collapse, and the Napoleonic Wars are on the horizon. In chaos, opportunity is born, and Meyer is ready. He divides his ambitions into a plan that spans generations. His 5 sons will leave Frankfurt for London, Paris, Vienna, and Naples, each city a foothold in what will become the Rothschild Empire. Alone, each son is powerful. Together, they are unstoppable. But before the family can rise, Meyer must navigate antisemitism, political intrigue, and the fragility of trust. Every deal carries risk. Every handshake could be betrayal. And yet, Meyer sees patterns where others see chaos. This chapter of history is hidden. Few remember the alleys of Frankfurt, the flickering candles, the coins weighed on scales smaller than your hand. And yet, from these shadows, a dynasty that would finance kings, rebuild nations, and outlast empires was born. Meyer Rothschild knew one man alone could influence a city. But 5 men, strategically placed across Europe, they could influence an entire continent. So he trained his sons with precision. Each was assigned a city that would serve as a financial outpost. Meyer stayed in Frankfurt, keeping the family's home base secure. Nathan Meyer moved to London, the beating heart of global finance. Salomon Meyer went to Vienna, the center of the Habsburg Empire. Karl Meyer set up in Naples, a gateway to Italy and southern Europe. And Jacob, later known as James, traveled to Paris, the hub of culture and influence. Each brother became a master of his environment. Nathan learned the rhythm of London's money markets, predicting the rise and fall of stocks and bonds. Salomon mastered diplomacy with aristocrats in Vienna. Karl monitored trade and credit across Italian ports. James cultivated relationships with France's elite. And Amschel ensured Frankfurt remained the silent center of operations. When Napoleon's armies marched across Europe, the Rothschild brothers were already 5 moves ahead. Nathan, in London, transmitted intelligence about troop movements faster than governments could verify. Salomon used Vienna to finance allies and manipulate debt structures. Through a combination of information, speed, and trust, the Rothschilds began to dominate international finance. Consider this. In a time when wars decided the fate of nations, the Rothschilds could predict outcomes and profit before the cannon even fell silent. They were not just bankers, they were the invisible architects of victory. Their methods were subtle. They never flaunted wealth, yet kings and governments depended on them. The Rothschilds created a network of trust and secrecy, giving them leverage ordinary monarchs could not achieve. Nathan's famous phrase was simple: appear modest, act decisively. By the 1820s, the Rothschild brothers were financing the reconstruction of Europe after the Napoleonic Wars. They funded infrastructure, industry, and even entire governments, always from behind the curtain. Europe was rebuilding, yet the architects of its wealth were largely invisible to the public eye. Mayer's vision had come alive. His sons, spread across the continent, formed a web of influence so powerful that nations themselves leaned on it for survival. But success bred envy. Whispers of conspiracy followed the Rothschilds wherever they went. Their secrecy, once a shield, now became fodder for myths that would follow the family for centuries. And yet, while the world speculated, the Rothschilds kept building quietly, relentlessly, strategically. By the early 19th century, Europe was a continent in chaos. Wars raged. Empires crumbled. Kings scrambled for stability and cash. Into this chaos stepped the Rothschild brothers, armed not with armies, but with ledgers, letters, and an unshakable network of trust. Nathan Rothschild in London became the beating heart of their operations. Through couriers, coded messages, and clever intelligence, he tracked troop movements across Europe, faster than any government. The Battle of Waterloo is perhaps the most famous example. While armies clashed, Nathan moved gold and informed allies, profiting while governments panicked. By the time the news of Napoleon's defeat reached London, Nathan had already positioned his resources to dominate the market. But their influence went beyond war. The Rothschilds became financiers to governments across Europe, including Britain, Austria, France, and Prussia. They provided loans for infrastructure, rebuilding, and industrialization. Cities rose, railways expanded, bridges were built, all funded, at least in part, by the Rothschilds. Salomon in Vienna financed Austrian war debt. James in Paris funded French Reconstruction. Karl in Naples managed Southern European loans. And Amschel in Frankfurt coordinated the entire network, ensuring that every transaction, every credit, every investment aligned with the family's long-term vision. In just a few decades, the Rothschilds went from a single ghetto household to a continent-spanning financial empire. They were no longer bankers, they were architects of nations. Yet, with great influence came great scrutiny. Rumors swirled that the Rothschilds controlled entire governments. Conspiracy theories were born, some claiming they manipulated wars for profit. In truth, the brothers acted strategically but ethically. Their focus was long-term growth, influence, and security, not chaos. From this period, a key lesson emerges. Power isn't about visibility, it's about reach. While kings fought on battlefields, the Rothschilds were quietly reshaping the economic landscape of Europe. The family began diversifying into industries and culture. They invested in railways, mining, and industry, transforming Europe's infrastructure. But they also sought immortality through art, architecture, and wine. In France, James Meyer Rothschild acquired estates and vineyards, laying the foundation for a dynasty of winemaking. These assets weren't just wealth, they were symbols of legacy, meant to endure centuries. In Vienna and Frankfurt, the family built grand palaces and amassed art collections rivaling royalty. Each piece was more than decoration. It was an investment in influence and prestige, a signal to the world that the Rothschilds were here to stay. Philanthropy became part of the family's mission. Hospitals, schools, and cultural institutions were funded across Europe, quietly, with minimal fanfare. The lesson was clear. True influence lasts when it benefits society while remaining unseen. Mayer's descendants didn't just want wealth, they wanted stability, security, and endurance. And their meticulous planning paid off. The Rothschilds survived revolutions, economic collapses, and 2 world wars. By the 20th century, the empire had splintered into multiple branches, yet remained remarkably resilient. Today, Alexandra de Rothschild leads Rothschild & Co. in London, while Ariane de Rothschild manages the Edmond de Rothschild Group in Geneva. Their empire now spans finance, art, wine, and global investments, a testament to a family vision built centuries ago. The Rothschilds survived centuries of war, political upheaval, and societal change, not because they sought fame, not because they chased headlines, but because they mastered vision, patience, and strategy. They built an empire from the shadows, a network of influence that spanned continents, a fortune that could survive revolutions, and a legacy that still shapes modern finance. Their story teaches us a simple yet profound truth. Real power isn't loud, it's enduring, quiet, and strategic. From a small alley in Frankfurt to the palaces of Europe, the Rothschilds show that knowledge is more valuable than gold. Patience compounds influence faster than impulsive action. And legacy is built not just in wealth, but in systems, relationships, and vision. Today, the Rothschild name evokes curiosity, myths, and admiration, a reminder that true impact often happens unseen. And for anyone watching this video, there's a lesson. You may not inherit empires, but you can inherit mindsets. You can see opportunity in chaos, act strategically, and leave a legacy that outlives you. The Rothschilds didn't just accumulate wealth. They engineered history. And you can engineer your life, your career, and your influence with the same principles: focus, foresight, and relentless discipline. Which lesson from the Rothschild dynasty inspires you most? Vision, strategy, or patience? Comment below. Let's start a conversation about building your own empire. The shadows may hide the architects, but their influence is everywhere, if you know where to look.